Today in the Diz List, we discuss the top 5 things you'll never do again in Walt Disney World.
Welcome to the Diz List, the podcast that ranks everything in Walt Disney World. I'm Nick.
And I'm Rob, and welcome to episode 51, where we discuss the top 5 things you'll never do again in Walt Disney World.
Before we get to the list, if you haven't been following along on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, please take a second to go and give us a follow over there. Any of those or all of those different platforms. Also, patreon.com/DizListPod. We release early episodes as well as releasing our mini episodes that have turned into quite a bit of fun. So join us over there as well.
All right, Nick, what's new this week?
So I was reading an article this morning that was about the queue for Tiana. And specifically that the article's title was something along the lines of why you don't want to use Genie Plus when Tiana's Bayou Adventure opens.
At least at first.
And it got me thinking, is that a way that Disney could potentially control Genie Plus sales, not by cost, but rather making it so enticing to be in the queue that you don't want to skip it? And then the Lightning Lane automatically skips the whole queue. Like, for instance, would you get a Genie Plus if it meant that you had to skip all of the pre-shows for rides like Rise or rides like Guardians of the Galaxy?
It's funny. Those are the exact two I was just thinking of.
Yeah. Like, they've done such a great job with pre-shows and with the queue there. Is that a potential for Disney to kind of disincentivize you from purchasing Genie Plus? I know you'd think they'd want to incentivize you, but they want to control it to a certain extent too.
So this one's complicated. Let's use your story where your first time to Disney, you skipped a portion of Rise of the Resistance queue, and you were pretty upset.
Yeah,
I don't blame you. But at the same token, if you get a Genie Plus, don't they start you right at the pre-show with Rey?
I don't.
That's a tough one.
No,
I don't know. And I know we're splitting hairs here,
but we had a Lightning Lane, individual Lightning Lane last year.
Yeah,
we didn't skip any of the pre-shows at Rise.
Well, we don't know what we're going to get with Tiana. I mean, Tiana could be a similar thing where they do a couple pre-shows before you go in.
So what the Imagineers have said is that waiting in this queue will give you a bigger, deeper backstory. It's supposed to be telling the story of what made Tiana who she is today.
Okay.
And by today, I mean the Tiana in the ride, which is she owns her own food empire. So it's kind of like,
I was just going to ask
you. It's kind of like feeding. It's kind of like filling in the gap between the end of Princess and the Frog.
Okay.
And where she is in the ride.
So it's the end of Princess and the Frog. And I'll be honest, the last time I saw that was in the theater, and I really enjoyed the movie, but I haven't rewatched it since then. Mm-hmm. I don't rewatch a ton of movies, just kind of the way I am. But so the movie is over. So this ride essentially is a sequel. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean it's years in the future. She owns her own literal food empire.
Okay,
right?
So we're probably not going to see in the ride unless somehow the Imagineers make a flashback within the ride of Prince Naveen as a frog.
I don't think so.
That's interesting.
Unless, like you say, it's a flashback, I don't believe so.
Man, I'm really curious about this ride now.
Yeah.
I was excited about it, but now it's that much more interesting as far as if we really look at the timeline and where everything is. Like Louis or Louis, I can't remember. The alligator, what's his name?
Yeah. I think it's Louis.
Is it Louis? It's probably named after Louis Armstrong, right? I would assume so.
I don't know.
That's why my guess is that. But I'm sure he's going to be all through the ride, and he is a fantastic character. Yeah. And that lightning bug is a great character. I don't remember his name either.
Well, again, he's dead.
Is he died?
Did you? It's been a while since you've seen that movie.
Yeah. Wow, I do not remember that.
Yeah. He goes off to into the stars to be with his love Evangeline.
Oh man, I forgot about all that. I got to rewatch it.
Yeah, you do.
I will. When that ride opens, I'm definitely going to take time and rewatch it.
So
I remember liking it, though.
Probably like 10 years then, right?
So that...
I mean, that's Disney timeline for building stuff. 10 years? Right?
Probably.
But yeah, I just think it's interesting that like it raised a question for me of when does the Lightning Lane experience become less than? So what I mean by that is, okay, so I skipped the line, but when does skipping the line become like not enjoyable? And I think that for me, if I had to skip all of the pre-shows for Guardians and all of the pre-shows for Rise, that would be too much.
Yeah, because it's part of the experience of the ride.
Right.
For me.
And so the question is like, can Disney use that to its advantage? Where the new, whenever they redo a ride, they make the queue so immersive and so great, and they make the Lightning Lane such that its merge point or whatever you want to call it is after all the stuff that's great.
Yeah.
Is that a way for them to control the sales a little bit better than trying to charge $37?
Have you heard there's talk about making the Guardians of the Galaxy queue in the building next door where they were going to do the play pavilion?
I haven't heard that. I know they put up, I would find that hard to believe simply because they just recently this week put up the posts for the outdoor queue.
Okay.
They literally put them into the concrete with the ropes and stuff.
Man, that's going to be tough with hopefully
the heat,
umbrellas.
With the heat. No, there's nothing up.
Oh my
so,
God.
According to the outlet that I was reading this, or was it? I can't remember if it was a reel or if I was reading it, but they had asked some cast members, and the cast members indicated that currently those are there solely for like after hours guests. So like late night. Because
right,
then it becomes a standby, I think, or it's going to become a standby for like the after hours parties.
Okay.
But let's be honest, those are there for more. They didn't just put them there for guests, for late night guests. Man. They put them there for the eventuality that is switching from the virtual queue.
It reminds me of back during COVID where the lines would extend forever because you had to have, you know, the social distancing. I remember the first one that comes to mind when I think of these is the Haunted Mansion line went all the way back to like where Splash Mountain is.
That's insane.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I think that when they do switch to a standby line for Guardians, it's going to be, I personally think it's going to be kind of similar to Test Track where, yeah, you might be outside, but you're not outside a lot.
Okay.
Like, because there's a lot of room in that first room when you go in.
Yes.
I mean, there's room for them to do plenty of a queue inside right there. And when you consider how many people fit in the pre-show rooms, that's a considerable number of people that they can fit in the building.
And they must have taken all that into account, the Imagineers. Yeah. I mean, this is what they're good at.
Yeah.
And
I can't see them like kind of taking over the play pavilion. I can't see that happening.
I don't know. This is one of those rumor things that said,
yeah.
I don't remember why they saw somebody in there looking around, or I don't know.
Like I said, I don't think they would have put those posts up this week if that were any kind of a plan. So we'll see. But I just think it's interesting going forward how Disney deals with queues to try and maybe incentivize people to do that line as opposed to the Genie Plus. It's a good way to hold capacity. It's a good way to control the flow throughout the park. So I don't know.
And Disney's been known to just refurb queues. Like look at Peter Pan. Like so many people, you included, enjoy the queue better than the actual ride.
Yeah, I mean, 90 minutes for a 90-second ride isn't worth it. Yeah. But the nursery going through there, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of interactive things, and yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
All right, well, we have our halftime show coming up. Do we have anybody who sponsored the halftime show this week?
Yeah, today the halftime show is brought to you by Lindsay G., one of our newest patrons. We got a couple new patrons this past week, but Lindsay G., thank you so much for signing up and listening along. It's people like you and the other patrons who make it possible for us to continue doing this. So,
yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Lindsay G. Want to make a podcast? Spotify's got a platform that lets you make one super easily, then distribute it everywhere and even earn money, all in one place for free. It's called Spotify for Podcasters, and here's how it works. Spotify for Podcasters lets you record and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer. So no matter what your setup is like, you can start creating today. Then you can distribute your podcast to Spotify and everywhere else podcasts are heard. Video podcasts are also available on Spotify. And when you want to take conversations with your fans to the next level, Q&A and polls are the best way to get them talking. With Spotify for Podcasters, you can earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions. Best of all, it's totally free with no catch. Ever since we discovered Spotify for Podcasters, we've been able to share our love for Disney with others just like us. I highly recommend you give it a try. Download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started today. Welcome back to episode 51, where we're going to talk about our top 5 things that we will never do again in Walt Disney World.
So my list is a little, I don't know how you approached this. I approached it as just kind of general things that I screwed up on, hint, hint, and other things that are just rides and attractions that
mine's all
stink.
Mine's all over the place.
Okay, all right, good.
Yeah, it's not like a don't do this ride and that's it. It's like there's things
some is, but some is not. Yeah.
There's things all over the place for me. Yeah.
Well, then I'll begin with the one I just sort of hinted at a little bit here with my number 5 here. My number 5 I talk about quite frequently, but if you were a new listener, one thing that I have told on the podcast before, I've given this advice, and I've taken my own advice for many, many times, and that is wearing the proper footwear. So things I will never do again is wear the wrong shoes. So I've been pretty good through my time at going to Walt Disney World and Disneyland. We'll get to that in a minute, but I've worn the right shoes, nice light footwear, something that's good for walking all day long, or if it's really hot, some type of, slide or croc or something that's going to be kind of good for all weather. But alas, I've told this a lot recently, so if you've heard this story, you can go up. I know what he's about to talk about, and I won't spend too much time on it, but for the people who haven't heard before, I recently took a trip to Disneyland, and when I went to Disneyland, I definitely wore the wrong shoes. I bought a pair of these Jordan shoes, and after walking half a day, I got to, about noon walking around, I had blisters on the outside of both of my pinky toes. And it was just a disaster. So luckily I bought a pair of Vans Vans makes these new walking shoes, which are really nice. You've seen me wear them before, those gray ones. They're super comfortable and light and really easy to walk in. So luckily in their downtown Disney area, they had kind of a surf skate shop that I went into, and they had Vans for sale. And, I've ridden skateboards for years. It was like my favorite thing in middle school and high school. Never owned a pair of Vans. It's really weird. Never. Yeah. Like I had Airwalk and all the other skate brands and DC shoes I loved. Osiris, my friend Alex worked for Osiris for a bit. I was just talking about him. But so the thing I will never do again is wear the wrong shoes. Now by that, I mean there's appropriate shoes for certain things. Like you want to wear walking shoes, and then in my backpack, usually I didn't do this for Disneyland, but I'll have either my Adidas slides or a pair of Crocs in my backpack to change it to if it rains.
It's going to rain, yeah. I mean, wearing the wrong shoes is something I have never done, so I can't put it on this list. But since you have done it, it's a smart thing to put here because there's no way you should do that. It's absolutely a miserable day when that happens. When you end up having to do, walking the equivalent of like 10 miles.
Yeah.
And you're doing it in the wrong shoes. It's just not fun. Not fun at all.
It was ridiculous. And, after it happened, I said to my wife, I go, oh, this is going to be a good story for the podcast, which I'm probably going to tell about 100 times.
Yeah. That's a good number 5. My number 5 is something that I am putting on this list with an asterisk. Actually 4 and 5.
Uh-oh.
Unless things change, One of the things I will never do again at Walt Disney World is go to Hollywood Brown Derby.
Oh, geez. That's a beloved place. I've actually never eaten there. I know where it is.
It was
right next to the Chinese Theater, but I haven't been there.
It was up there with, is probably, if I were to rank my top 5 worst dining experiences, it's up there. It might be number 2.
Wow.
It was bad.
Listeners.
The food was not good. It was overhyped. It was overpriced. And it wasn't a comfortable restaurant. It was loud, which it's a signature restaurant. I don't feel like dealing with loud crowds when I'm eating a signature meal. And I'm not talking about kids being loud. I'm talking about just like, in order to hear the people sitting next to you, you had to speak louder, and then the table next to you then would have to. So it just was this horrible, like, situation of like, you might as well have been in the middle of the crowd waiting to watch the fireworks.
Right.
It wasn't a good experience. My meal wasn't good. My wife's meal was the only one at the table that was good. She had, I believe it was chicken breast, or it may have been like the airline chicken. They call it, where it's like it's the chicken breast with the drum still attached.
Do you remember what you ordered?
It was that unremarkably like forgettable. It was a steak of some sort.
Okay.
But it was not good. It wasn't cooked properly. It was just not good.
What'd your son get? Usually get something fun and fancy.
Well, he ate most of my wife, so his wasn't that great. It just wasn't a good meal. And it was 2019. So you can't blame like, well, COVID and staffing. It just wasn't good. I won't go back until I've heard things have changed.
So I'm curious if any listeners have had a good or bad experience. I'm curious because just based on what I've heard in the past, it seems like it's a tradition and a beloved place, but I believe you, like...
Oh, I think that there are people who love it, and that I could have had I likely just had a bad day, but it was so bad that I won't go back. Like, unless I hear something has changed, there's no need for me to go back. It wasn't the menu's not that inspired anyway. I mean, like, okay, cool. They've got a grapefruit flavored cake thing, and they've got like their Cobb salad that they're well known for, but like, that's not signature dining. I'm sorry. It's just not good.
That's not incentive enough for me to go out of my way to...
I'm not spending that kind of money ever again to go to that place.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm behind you on that one.
Okay.
Things I will never do again. My number 4 actually involves you.
Oh no! You'll never go to Disney with me again.
No. That was fun. We had a great time. Number 4 is our first day there when we arrived at our hotel and we were kind of getting settled and we decided, hey, let's just go over to the Magic Kingdom for the night. I am never going to tell myself again, it's not going to rain.
Yeah, so basically your 4 and your 5 are
screw-ups.
You basically could have combined them into one. I will never not take my own advice.
Yes.
Because you tell people all the time.
I know.
Prepare for rain. It's going to rain.
I know. And we were just like, all right, let's just head over. And like we get on the boat. I don't remember which boat we were on. Usually I remember. We get on the boat and like it's thundering and we're all looking at our phones and your wife is looking at the radar like, well, it might pass us, but it may not. And we get over to Magic Kingdom and we get right into the entrance under the train station and it just poured buckets for a long, long time.
That may have been the most rain I've seen at Disney.
Yeah, and you had your raincoat, and your family was prepared.
We all had our stuff.
The 4 of us were just like, let's party, and we were way wrong.
There's a really good picture of us huddled up underneath the train station.
Yep.
And we all have our rain gear on, my family.
Yep.
And there's you guys soaking wet. And we're standing in about 2 inches of water at that point, too.
Well, I guess telling these stories is going to entice people to every time bring that backpack with extra shoes and the rain gear. And, man, things I'll never do again. Yeah, you're right. I need to take my own advice. I should probably listen to the Dizzless podcast once or twice.
Yeah, right. Listen back to some old episodes and be like, not doing that again. We say we're never going to do that again, but there's going to be a time when you're staying close to a park and you're like, oh, come on, let's just go over there. Real quick. I'm just going to jump in.
That was this exact situation.
Yeah.
Big mistake.
Right. I mean, and then you guys, you toughed it out. You stayed the rest of the night.
We were soaked.
Yeah. But yeah, that's a good one. My number 4 also has to do with something we did together. So it involves this last trip, and I'm really shocked that I'm going to say this, and you probably will be too, but another thing I will never do again in Walt Disney World, and again, like I said, 4 and 5 are things that have asterisks unless things change. I will never go to Oga's again.
Okay.
Oga's was a one and done. It's overpriced drinks.
I'm not going to disagree with you on that, actually.
Overpriced drinks in a loud, chaotic environment that wasn't uncomfortable, but wasn't like so comfortable that I'd want it, that it entices you to stay there. You have a 45-minute window, which forces you to, if you want to try multiple things, to basically binge drink in the middle of the park. And it really, like, the drinks were good, don't get me wrong, but like there's not really food on that menu.
You had a couple. I mean, what is it? I think 3 is probably a normal amount that someone could have in 40 minutes, maybe 2. I don't know.
I mean, because they're smaller drinks.
They're smaller drinks, but mine was strong.
Well, yeah, it's a mixed drink. It's an actual cocktail.
Yeah, it was. Well, it was stronger than what I normally am used to.
Right. They're cocktails. So I mean, it's mostly liquor, and they have, you can go in there and get a beer or whatever. But I've seen it. I've done it. There's no reason for me to go back, and I don't think that's what Disney wanted to do. I think that Disney needed to make that more of a return visit. Makes sense. Very similar to the Star Cruiser.
Yeah.
Where the Star Cruiser was a one and done situation. This is a situation where it's a one and done for me. There's no need for me to go back unless something changes. There's not a draw, right? I mean, the drinks are good, but you can get the same drinks for half the price at some of the hotel bars, and they're called different things. The only one that's really unique to that place is the Fuzzy Tauntaun, and when we were there, they didn't have it because there was like a worldwide shortage of like the stuff that makes the foam, whatever's in the foam. I think it's some sort of pepper, I think, but I'm not positive. That makes your lips and the tip of your tongue go a little bit numb.
Weird.
That wasn't there. Sichuan peppercorns or something like that. I think that's what it is. But yeah, that's my number 4 is Oga's. I won't do Oga's again.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with you on that. I had a great time. I enjoyed myself. It just seemed like a clock was ticking. And I'm not having fun if a clock is ticking the whole time. You know?
Yeah.
I feel like this is, we got to do as much as we can. We got to have fun. Time is running out. Like, I don't feel like I'm going to relax and have that drink. I felt like I had to drink it as fast as I could.
Yep.
And
yeah, it's great, but it's also not repeatable for me. I don't know. It's not repeatable.
And then the DJ Rex, I think,
yep.
Which is kind of cool and fun, and it's great to be in that environment. But again, that's tough to repeat. Yeah, that's a good one.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again. If it were a sit-down restaurant, it would make more money. But that's kind of my thought on it.
All right.
So that's my number 4. I will not do Oga's again.
So I'm down to 3, and number 3 is something that's relatively new-ish in Epcot. And my son and I did this the most recent time we were there, and this is the Beauty and the Beast sing-along, which I gave it a chance. And we went into the Beauty and the Beast sing-along. The animation was not the greatest. It just seemed, this is probably the best way to describe it, and our listeners will understand this too. If you saw The Lion King, and then you watched the sequels that came directly to VHS, do you know how the animation style is subpar?
Yeah, Lion King 1.5 or something like that.
Yes. So what they do is they take the scenes from the actual Lion King, but in between, there's a whole storyline with LeFou.
Yeah.
Have you done this or not?
You just threw me off because you said they take the storyline from the Lion King, because we were talking
about
Lion King.
Storyline from, oh my gosh, from Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
They take the Beauty and the Beast songs from the actual movie, and then in between is when they do LeFou, not Lion King.
Okay.
Sorry, that must not have made much sense to the listeners. They're like, wait, what? No, it's still Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
And then that's the amateur animation is in between, where they kind of splice that in with LeFou in between. So the animation wasn't great. It was a little cheesy, but there was this woman who was sitting next to us who was singing full volume right, because it was like me and my son and then this lady and her husband. And the husband was sitting there. He looked like he was just done. And the wife was like super excited. And she had her ears on and she was full blast singing.
It was me and my wife. What are you doing, dude?
This woman sang like Miss Piggy. You know how Miss Piggy?
Oh my God.
She was like, be our guest, be our guest, like really loud, full volume Miss Piggy voice. And it was like, oh my gosh, this is torture. It's like bad animation, and this lady is like full volume. But I guess that's kind of what you sign up for when you go in, and it literally says sing along on the side. Like, I don't know. I don't think I would do it again.
I have never in my life wished for something as much as I wish for the fact that woman is one of our listeners. that she's like, oh my God, it's me.
That's me. Wait a minute. How did they get audio footage of me singing "Be Our Guest"?
I need to dial it back next time I'm in the sing along.
Oh, it was over the top. Man.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in some attractions with you that you're singing pretty loudly.
Not that loud.
Oh, really? She was that loud?
Oh, man.
Okay.
She didn't need a mic. She could front a hardcore band.
That's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
That's I've never done that. I've never done that particular attraction or show. So maybe I'll have to do it and see if she's a plant. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like for a comedy show, she's a plant. Maybe.
That's my 3 Beauty and the Beast sing along. It's kind of a bust.
So my number 3 is something that you might think, well, you can't do it anyway, but you can still. And it is, I will never again take a bus from the airport.
You'll take a limousine.
Yeah, well, I will do one of 2 things: a ride share or a car service, which is what we've done the last couple times. It was so much more enjoyable. The fact that you don't have to wait on this bus in a line. You've just got your bags or whatever out of the airport. You're waiting in this long line.
You're excited. You just arrived,
and then it's like. You check in at the booth. Hey, I'm going, this is where I'm going. This is the resort. Oh, get in that line. So then you get in another line. And then you wait. And you wait. And you wait. And then you get on the bus and you're like, yeah, I'm going to Disney World. And then you're like, always, no matter what resort you're staying at, it's your resort's the last stop.
Yep.
And so you landed at like, let's say 10:30 in the morning. And sometime around 1, you're finally at your resort ready to go. It's just the way it is. It always seems that happens. I know that's an exaggeration, but it's not by much. The ride service we took last year, the car service, we landed, and within 40 minutes, that's with a stop at a Publix, we were at the resort in like 45 minutes.
Yeah.
It was great. So for me, my number 3 is I will never again take a bus to the resorts from the airport.
Tell the listeners about the great surprise we got from our...
we
both did.
Yeah, we both ended up with limos on at least half of the leg of our trip. It was so weird. Like, we had booked SUVs, but Rob got a limo there and we got a limo back.
Yeah.
It was great. And
I'm sending Nick pictures after when we were driving over, like pictures in the limo, and they're like, what?
Yeah.
We just got this SUV. But then on the way back, it was the opposite. We got the SUV, and they're sending us pictures of the limo. It was really cool.
The best part is that, like, just like Rob's wife did to Rob, I said as soon as he sent the pictures, I turned to my wife and said, Rob pushed the wrong buttons. Rob definitely purchased a limo.
Well, and then I had to, I brought it up. I'm like, look, here's proof.
Yeah, he took a screenshot and sent it to me. And
yes,
was like,
but like, could I have done that goof up? Sure. Yeah.
I thought for sure that you would screw it up. And paid
but
for the limo.
I screw up that stuff sometimes, but I didn't this time.
Yeah. You can take the Sunshine Flyer, I think it's called, or something like that. And you can take the Mears Connect, but why? Like, yes, it's more expensive to take a rideshare or take a car service, but time is money in Disney, man. Yep. And so that money is worth it. That extra money is worth it. So my number 3 is I will never again take a bus from the airport to the resort. What's your that brings us to your number 2. We're moving along.
My number 2, I've been to Disney, I don't even know. I'm going to need to sit down and count the number of times. I would say maybe we're close to 25. I don't know. And up until up until our last visit to Disney World, there was only one ride that wasn't new that I had never done. Only one. And I've done every ride in all the parks besides the new ones, except for this one. And we waited and waited and waited and waited in the sun. And then we took an elevator up and we got on the Astro Orbiter.
You want to know something funny? I said what we were recording today.
Yeah.
And my son goes, Astro Orbiter?
Yeah. So we waited forever and finally got on this Astro Orbiter, which is, the only thing I hadn't done or experienced. Actually, it's not true. I've never done Fantasmic either.
Oh, that's worth it though.
But I guess I'm talking like rides that have been around since I've been going since I was a kid. Yeah. I mean that's been there every time I've been to the parks. And we get on the thing and you're just basically kind of spinning around. You're way up high, and all of us, all four, every member of our family was like, that was ridiculous. We waited forever in the heat. Right up this like claustrophobic elevator.
It's like an elevator you see in like a school, and what I mean by that is like they're really not made for people. They're made for like cargo. That's what I felt like in that elevator.
This must have been our 2021 trip. Must have been.
No, I thought you did it when you were there for Christmas time.
I feel like we were there. I think we had masks on, and it was hot.
Oh, well, maybe. Oh.
Yeah, I think we had masks on because I remember everyone being nervous in the elevator.
Gotcha.
Because it was during COVID, and we all had these masks on, and we all held our breath in the elevator as we went up. But it wasn't the greatest ride, and we waited forever, and we stood in the sun, and basically turned me into a cookie. So I'm not a huge fan of it. I mean, if there was no line and it was night, maybe I feel like I might do better. And my motion sickness, I don't really get it that bad. I mean, it's, my honorable mention is teacups, because we did it because we were good sports. And if you follow us on social media, you probably see there's a picture of Nick and I on the teacups with a big smile. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, Nick, if you spin this, I'm going to kill you. But that's an honorable mention. That is not my number one, but I don't love the teacups either. But Astro Orbiter kind of made me a little dizzy up there. It wasn't awful, but it was bad for a lot of reasons.
It's a rather violent spinner.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it moves. It moves quicker than Dumbo and stuff like that, obviously.
Yeah.
And the views maybe make it worth it if there's no line.
Yeah, because, you can see over to the hotels, and that's kind of cool.
But if there's a line, I'm with you. Don't wait in that line. It's not really that cool. I mean, I bet you it'd be cool for fireworks.
I agree. And I realize the list is things you'll never do again. I guess I would have no problem ever doing it again. If the situation was perfect, I may do it. Yeah. And I know that's contradictory of...
No, I mean, why not? I said I put asterisks on my 4 and 5 that said, unless things change, I won't do those again. So I can see why you wouldn't want to do this again.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would say I would never do it again. I'd never wait in line for it again. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's a better way to put it.
Because we waited in line on a hot day as well, and you wait and you wait and you wait and you wait, and then you get on an elevator that is, like you say, super claustrophobic. Then you get up top and you wait some more. It's not worth the wait, and it's also very confusing over there. Like, are you standing in line for that, or are you standing in line for People Mover? Yeah. Like, what are you standing in line for? And the other thing is, like, it's always broke down for some reason. I don't know if it's the elevator that breaks down or if it's the actual ride. It's not a great ride, so I can't say that it's in my top 5, but it's definitely an honorable mention for me as well. That I would not do that one again.
I think the only other time I would tack this on to do is we've done as a family. Let's try to do every single attraction in Walt Disney World.
Yeah, I think that's
and we came short. We were too short of pulling that off. Yeah. And this was it was this, and I can't remember what else. Maybe Dumbo or something, but we came very close to pulling that off.
Yeah.
Maybe someday we will.
I think it's an appropriate the only appropriate time to do it is probably that. And there's no lightning lane for this either, so like you're waiting. So that's another issue. My number 2 is something that is a tip, as well as like something I will never do again. I will never again wait in line for quick service food, because I will always, as long as it's available, do mobile order.
Oh, yeah. We talked about that on a recent episode.
Yeah. So for me, I don't eat a lot of quick service meals, but I eat a lot of quick service, like want a snack or you're kind of hungry, but I don't want. So like
we do it all the time.
There's no, for me, the people waiting in line, I'm like, sucker, you don't know the trick, do you? Now there's a caveat, and that is that sometimes you're forced to, because when you look at the mobile order is pushed out so far.
Sometimes,
and you're hungry and you've got to do it.
Or you look and see what else is nearby, and you just hop in another restaurant that maybe isn't as busy.
Right. Just because, like, if you go to like Cosmic Rays, okay, there are times when the mobile order window, it might be noon, and the mobile order window, the next available is like 1:45.
Yeah.
So then, wait. But,
okay, let's look at Pinocchio.
Yeah.
Okay, how long is Pinocchio? Okay,
never.
Right. So you could do that because it's in walking distance.
Yeah.
So that would be my tip if you're trying to get this perfect situation. If you're trying to get a burger at Cosmic Rays, you need another burger quick. You can get it from Pinocchio Village House.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not. The mobile ordering is so seamless, and you pay for it right there. You're done. It says, "Oh, your order's ready." You walk up, "Hey, my order's ready." "Oh yeah, here you go. Here's your order." You're going. It takes a lot of the angst of standing in those lines away. It takes all of that part away, and it's a little bit easier to, instead of like standing in line trying to figure it out, and like your kid changes their mind when they get there. It's like, what do you want? Oh, it's ordered. Like, that's what you're getting. Because, without fail, you get in line with kids, and at the beginning of the line, they want a hot dog. And by the time you get up there and you order the hot dog, they're like, no, I said pizza. And it's like,
did you?
I don't think that's what you said. So this is a great way. And mobile ordering, if there are discounts that can be applied, like if you are, Visa card holder for the Disney, or if you're if they have a Disney Plus deal, or if they have a DVC deal, or if they have an annual pass deal, that stuff populates right in the mobile order app, so you don't have to worry about that.
That's great. So
it's already taken care of. And even for people with allergies, it's not. You can mark right there, like I've got.
Do.
So there's not an issue with that.
Absolutely, we do that every time.
I will never wait in line for quick service ever again, now that they have mobile ordering. So that's my number 2. It's a big one. It's a big tip. Make sure that you don't wait in line, because you're wasting your park time. Mm-hmm. So, here's another quick hack, just really quickly. If you're on People Mover, you can order while you're on People Mover, because you're close enough. And usually, when you're done, you can go get your food.
Cool.
So that's a cool one too.
That's a good one.
All right. So that's my number 2. I know we went kind of quickly through this, but we're already at number 1. I bet you there's going to be some conversations here. So let's hear what your number 1 never do again is.
Number 1 for me is something that I actually don't talk a lot about. And our regular listeners know that there's certain things that we bring up on a regular basis that we like or dislike. But number 1, I have not really discussed a lot. And the number 1 thing I'm never going to do again is because I've already put that behind me. I'm not going to go back and do this again, so I never really even talk about it. My number 1 is Mission Space at Epcot.
Oh, yeah.
It's already been filed in the trash bin. We went on it. I don't even know how many years ago. Maybe 5-6 years ago we went on it. So Mission Space, for people that are not familiar, is a ride in Epcot. It's right over next to Gardens of the Galaxy. It's in that general area. It has the new Space 220 restaurant connected to it. And there's 2 versions of this ride. Version 1, the orange version. The orange version is it's like a giant spinner. You get inside like you're in the cockpit of a space shuttle, and they spin you around as you're watching a video that you're blasting off into space. But you are actually spinning really, really fast, and it feels like you're blasting off into space. Mm-hmm. The other side, I believe it's the green side, and on the green side is the same experience, but you're just sitting there. And there's no, I guess it kind of shakes around a little bit, but it's sort of a simulated, rocket up to the moon type thing. It was claustrophobic, and we did the mild one. It was very claustrophobic. This thing fit right on me, and it was tighter than being like in a coffin. And I'm not really like super claustrophobic.
How many times have you been in a coffin?
Well, I'm trying to compare it to something that would be similar to that. It was just very uncomfortable. The screen was really hard to see. Like it was almost hazy, and everything about it just was not a great experience. It was just a total dud for me.
I can't put it on my list because I've never done it because I know how it would end for me, so I refuse to do it.
It's just
my son, I think, has
such a bust.
Has expressed a little bit of interest in trying it, and I was like, "You can go on your own, bud," because I'm not.
The only thing that would save it for me to possibly want to do it again is if they upgraded the screens and maybe theme it to something.
Yeah, I don't even know why I would ever want to go on that ride because I'm not, like, the spinning thing isn't going to happen for me. I just don't want to do it. And, like, the other one's so mild and so, like, the only thing about it is, like, okay, well, you're claustrophobic, but, like, other than that, it's not an attraction that I think anybody would be upset if it went away.
Right.
I could be wrong. There could be people out there who think it's the greatest attraction at Epcot, but they would be wrong.
Well,
so
I have a couple ideas for one of our Patreon episodes for how I would fix Mission Space.
Yeah.
So we got to put that on our list for possible for Patreon episodes.
Yeah.
Fixing Mission Space. I got some ideas.
Yeah, that would be a good mini.
So if you're a Patreon listener, you can listen to my thoughts on what I would want to do to fix this particular ride that I never want to do again. So yeah, that's my number one, is that dud of a ride, Mission Space. That's my number one. What did you end up with for your number one thing?
So my number one is another tip, or it's maybe not a tip, it's what you shouldn't do, okay? And everybody knows that one of the ways to get your day started off correctly is to rope drop. But I will never again take Disney transportation. Specifically, I'll never again take a bus for rope drop.
Because you missed it.
If you take a bus, you're going to miss rope drop.
Yep. And
so for me, it is worth the money to get a Lyft or get a Uber and rope drop that way.
I completely agree with this one.
The exception being rope dropping Magic Kingdom, Lyft and Uber drops you off
at the TTC.
At the TTC. So that one I can see possibly not doing that. But even then, buses are so unreliable. Even then, even though that the buses can drop you off at the front gate of Magic Kingdom as opposed to the Ticket and Transportation Center, it's better off, to me, if you're staying at somewhere like Animal Kingdom Lodge, if you're staying somewhere like Saratoga Springs or Caribbean Resort, maybe you'd want to do the Skyliner. But
it's a little bit more reliable, I would say.
But to me, it does not make sense to do anything but a ride share, especially for rope dropping over at Animal Kingdom. Like, if you're going to rope drop there, it makes no sense to take a bus.
Because it's far away.
Yeah, and buses are unreliable. The first bus is going to show up at this time. Then you show up and there's like 80 people waiting to get on that bus, and your resort happens to be the last on the loop that they're doing.
I was just going to say that.
So then you end up with like 5 seats for these 80 people.
When we stayed at Port Orleans, and that second half of our last trip, we took the bus over to Epcot, and we walked over to where we were supposed to catch the bus, and we didn't know where it was in the order of pickup and drop-offs. And we were like right at the beginning. So they picked us up first and we're like, oh, great. And we sat right down, plenty of room. And then we realized it's because there's now 12 more stops and you were just waiting and waiting. I mean, it's good that you get a seat. I mean, it's a double-edged sword because you get to sit if you're the first stop, but you're waiting forever.
Yeah, you think, okay, well, I'm going to get out on the bus at 7 a.m. First of all, you're already late, okay? Because you need to be at the parks almost by 7 a.m.
If you want to,
if you really want to truly rope
walk
drop.
on a ride, yeah.
And then you show up you get off the bus and you're like, okay, I'm ready to go, and you get to where they're doing security, and you're like, this is a 20-minute wait at security. If you had just gotten that ride share, you're probably going to get, like, for instance, when we did Hollywood Studios last summer, I can distinctly remember, not Hollywood Studios, I apologize, Epcot. I can distinctly remember walking to get on our ride share as we were booking our lightning lane at 7 a.m. So we were getting into the ride share at 7 a.m. and Epcot didn't open till 9. So like that's something you have to be aware of those things. If you're not aware of that, if you don't think about those things, and you're instead getting on a bus, because there were people getting on a bus right to our right, because the ride share pickup at Poly is as you're looking out to the parking lot. It's to the left of where the bus is board, and there were people waiting for a bus, and that bus wasn't there yet, but our ride share was there right when we called for them, and we drove over, and that was a couple times we got on in the ride share at like 7 a.m. booking our first lightning lane or our individual lightning lane if we purchased one. Head over to Hollywood Studios, head over to Epcot, and it's just it's kind of like along the same lines as not taking the bus from the airport.
Yeah.
Like, it's so much more reliable, it's more comfortable, and usually you end up with a driver who is personable and actually like will give you some hints.
Oh yeah, I've had some really great drivers. You had a driver one time that I remember you telling me later in the day. You were like, I had the nicest guy. You knew his name.
Yeah, he gave me.
Telling me all about him.
He's like, don't go through Lyft anymore. And I was like, okay. He's like, just text me. And I was like, that's weird. He's like, yeah, just text me and you can Venmo me the money, and it's like, my charge will be cheaper than Lyft, and I'll get more of the money. Which I'm sure is illegal.
Yeah, I'm sure it is too.
But like, whatever, dude. He also made some really funny jokes. He was like, so like, what's the abbreviation of Slinky Dog Dash? And I was like, SDD. And he's like, how about Midway Mania? And I was like, no, MM. He's like, what about Alien Swirling Saucers? And I was like, oh, that's funny right there. So yeah, he was a pretty funny guy. But yeah, it's one of those things where, if you want to get there on time and have some personal experience, like a more personalized experience, I think Lyft and Uber is the way to go. The exception is, like I said, if you're staying at Bay Lake Tower and you can walk, if you're staying at the Polynesian and you can hop on one of the friendship boats, or they're not called friendship boats, but one of the smaller boats right there. Those times it might be okay, but if you're staying at a resort that is not right next to a park, Disney transportation in general is not as reliable as calling an Uber. Yeah,
it's great that it's free, but
yeah,
you get what you pay for.
Yeah, you definitely do. So that was my 5. I kind of already mentioned that Astro Orbiter was on my short list.
Yep.
And so that was like an honorable mention. Did you have some honorable mentions of
things?
Yep,
Tea Party was. But we did Tea Party just for the heck of it. Everybody was, and there's photo proof of it with Nick and I. It's one of that famous photo of the two of us. Interesting fun fact about that photo: there was another guy in the photo that I photoshopped out.
Yeah, I know.
So that is not actually an original photo.
So when Rob sent me that picture, I was like, I don't remember taking this picture
because we didn't.
And I was like, I know we took a picture with the cast member. Because he was being goofy with our kids.
Yeah, he was all right. He was funny.
And we were taking a picture with our kids, and he was acting like a goofball behind them, and it was hilarious.
Yeah.
So then when they took our picture, he thought it'd be funny to do the same thing to us.
Yeah.
And he kind of like photobombed it, and it's a great picture, and I have no problem with him doing it.
Yeah.
But when you sent me that, I was like, huh. When did we do this? I don't recall this. It's so funny. But that one's kind of not on my honorable mention, only because I would do it as long as whoever I'm with promises not to spin it.
Yeah, and well, I think at night helps too, because I think part of that motion sickness is my clarity of vision and everything spinning around me.
Yeah.
If it's night and it's dark, I think I don't know that for a fact. That's just purely a guess. I only had one other, which I thought was kind of funny, and this was like a throwback to the 90s, is it's probably the last time that I experienced this problem. Is I won't do Typhoon Lagoon in the midsummer anymore, because I remember a trip that I took with my mom and dad and sister to Typhoon Lagoon, and at that point my cousin's husband, he's an ex-husband now, but he worked there and he was a lifeguard at Typhoon Lagoon. Have you ever heard this story?
No.
He was a lifeguard at Typhoon Lagoon, and they used to have a thing that is now since filled in where you can swim with sharks.
Wait, what?
Yes. Look it up. It's awesome. So they had sharks. They were nurse sharks. They were generally pretty tame and they would stay towards the bottom. But it was a giant tank and it was very deep. I don't even want to estimate because I'll be wrong. But it was a very deep tank and you would put on a mask and a snorkel and you would swim across on the surface and you can look down at all the fish and things in this tank. And at the very bottom, sure enough, there's sharks.
I can think of about 1,000 reasons why this is a bad idea.
Yeah, it existed.
Not because it's sharks,
my sister and I
but
did.
Like, I'm trying to think. Like, you know what kids do in those pools, and like,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's odd. I did not know that existed.
Yeah. So my cousin's ex-husband now he was the lifeguard there. So he said, "Hey, you got to come and do the shark thing." He was like talking it up, and so we bought tickets to go. And I remember that day just getting roasted. Like, I have red hair. Like my family's very fair skinned.
You have no hair.
Well, I have no hair. My beard is red, and I used to have red hair, and my family members have red hair too. And we always just get burned so easy. And yeah. I remember, and my mom, would put sunscreen on us, but it's the 80s and the 90s and it would come right off when we were swimming and they didn't have the technology then. Yeah. And just got burned to a crisp multiple times. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend Typhoon Lagoon in the summer. I mean, you get cooled off, but you're going to get roasted.
Yeah. I mean, I've never done one of the water parks, but that's an interesting one. I don't have really anything else that I absolutely wouldn't do again. One thing that's really close to it, but the reason I didn't put it on there is because I'm an owner at that DVC resort, is eating at Kona Cafe.
Oh, man.
I was such a horrible experience the last time. That's my number one worst meal. Wow. So it's worse.
Yeah, you've talked about it before.
It was worse than Hollywood Brown Derby.
Yeah.
And this was after the refurb and after it reopened, and it was still absolutely just atrocious. So that was really close to making my list. That was probably the only one. But I will probably do it again just because I own over there. And, that restaurant in particular changes so quickly. So, yeah, that's my honorable mention.
So Shark Reef, a unique experience at Disney's Typhoon Lagoon. I'm reading this off the internet. Will be closed effective October 3rd, 2016. This move is part of the park's continued growth and expansion. Interesting. Shark Reef allowed guests to don fins, mask, snorkel, and a life vest before snorkeling in an extremely cold saltwater pool that was home to fish, rays, and very small sharks. Those who didn't want to swim could still see the fish through the underwater glass viewing window.
Huh.
So that was still pretty recently that they offered that up.
Yeah, I didn't even know about it. Man, PETA must have hated that.
Yeah, that was an interesting experience, and I hadn't done it. I had no clue it was offered all the way until 2016. I'm fairly sure it was, 93 maybe, if I were to guess, when I did it.
Wow,
probably around there.
I mean, you learn something new every day, folks. Because
yeah.
I didn't even know that existed. I don't know a lot about what is offered over at those particular parks.
And Blizzard Beach is cool too. Speaking of getting sunburned, everything is white and snow, so that the sun reflects off it.
Yeah, sounds like a really good idea.
Yeah, bakes us even more.
Yes,
us fair-skinned people.
Nothing says fun like going snowblind in Florida.
Oh gosh, yeah, it's sunscreen and
extra polarized lenses.
Polarized lenses, no kidding.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us. By the way, we're recording this on Father's Day, so happy Father's Day to all the dads that listen.
Happy Father's Day.
But it's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow, and tomorrow's just a list away.
Tune in next time, and we'll see you real soon.